Welcome to another Gamma Partner Program Featured Artist of the Week. This week, we have Nietta. Nietta does a deep dive on how all of life's experiences have shaped her as a human, as well as a creator, and how she pours emotion really deeply into everything that she creates. I hope you enjoy the conversation. So, Nietta, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here and an honor to have you as part of the Gamma Partner Program. As we do at the start of all of these video interviews, I'd love for you to introduce yourself as a person, as an artist, as a creator. You can go back to little Nietta and when you first picked up a pencil or a paintbrush, but tell us your story.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. So where do I come? I come from the west, in Sydney's west. Grew up in the farms and with lots of animals and stuff like that. So I had a really good upbringing in that respect. Lots of freedom, lots of land. When I started drawing, I would say that essentially it was, the old newspapers back in the 80s where you'd have Garfield and all those little cartoons and stuff like that. So I remember on a Sunday, I'd be the first one to run and grab the cartoon section. And I would try and copy. And I'd also grab there were little sections where the political section where they would be basically taking the piss out of one of the politicians and stuff. So I always loved to mimic those and redraw them and freehand it to see how good I was. So that was where I started, and I just loved it. I was very quiet growing up. I didn't really have a lot to say. I'm still kind of like that unless I have a couple of beers in me. So yeah, I found that art gave me the space to kind of think, to relax. It was my little quiet haven, my little safe place. So growing up, if I was missing for hours, you would always find me in a corner somewhere drawing, essentially. So when I went through school, I did the silly choice of going and doing 3-unit art. Put myself under a hell of a lot of pressure to complete multiple artworks for assessment. So managed that. From there, I got married. I had 2 kids, 2 beautiful boys that are now grown up. And I started my own talent agency, so totally away from the arts. My husband had done his uni degree, so it was we started our own business. I kind of fell into it, where I managed lots of Australian personalities, and it was a good life at that time. But the market changed a lot about 15 years into it. So I ended up managing, or got approached by Christine Anu. So she wanted management. So we ended up taking on a management. Within a few months, we kind of discussed what the options were, what we could come up as brands and so forth. And we were at an event and we came up with a brilliant idea of creating a children's brand. So it ended up being that I would do all the animations and the drawings and the character development. And basically she told me all the stories so that I could develop those characters, and based off those stories is what I presented. And she did all the music and the story part to it. It ended up being signed by ABC Music. It became, there was a film clip, there was an album, there was a live costume character that we built in Melbourne, that went around through the schools across Australia, educating children on Indigenous culture with song and dance and so forth. So from there, that did really push me to get into the arts. So I started my own graphic design business. So essentially I never went to uni, but everything was self-taught. So when I took on this brand, it was no longer pen and paper. You had to actually learn how to use a computer. And back when we started, in my 20s, it was, what the hell's a computer? So not only was I creating my first brand within 6 months of being signed, I was also learning how to use Adobe, how to turn the artwork into vector artwork from a pencil sketch, all of this type of stuff. So it was really full on. But then I had enough knowledge to start my own business by the end of it, and ended up focusing on logo design. It was something that I seemed to be doing pretty well and have a good eye for. And then the beautiful world of NFTs after that. So, and outside of doing what I do in the arts, I've been a full-time carer for the last 15 years. I'm a mum. My son's type 1 diabetic, so he got diagnosed when he was 7. So I've always been at home or available. So doing work in the arts, being able to be at home and still be a mum and be effective in both was a blessing, essentially. So it was something that I decided to stick with. One, I enjoyed it. It did give me my peace and allowed me to be the best version of myself at home.
So there's so much to unpack there. It's so interesting. You've had an amazing story, and for people who don't know, working with Christine Anu, she's a very famous Indigenous, artist, musician, important person. How did working with people like her, and then your childhood, and then being a mother and a carer, and all of these different roles kind of shape you into a creator? I guess there's so many different impacts that have, there's been so many different things that have impacted you in your life that must give you inspiration and also make you feel certain things when you're creating.
100%. I think that, like I said, I was born a quiet child. My mum was the only person that heard me speak at about 2.5 years old. I didn't like to talk to people. I was very quiet. I like to sit in my little corner. Going into talent management, where you had to have these conversations. You had to find the confidence. So all my introvert behavior had to kind of dissipate to a certain degree. But at a certain point, you were known by name. So you didn't really have to do too much, or you just had to manage the right people and be in the right places and, send the right emails. So then when you're out there, it became, the beauty of it was I got to meet, there was good people out there, and there was a whole bunch of crappy people that you would never want to come across again. They all look great on camera, but behind the scenes they're terrible. I was lucky that my talent were like my family. If something went wrong, they'd call me, and that how many times they'd lost luggage, or they got in trouble because they were being chased, and I'd throw the kids in the back of the car and I'd jump in, and me and my hubby are at 4:00 in the morning going to pick up Gabrielle Richens, or one of the guys from one of the series that were going on at the time. So there's so many funny stories. I don't know if I can tell all of them, but
that's okay. We can infer.
Save it for private time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and it did. But because they are such big personalities, instead of me coming to the forefront, it allowed me back to be an introvert again. And I stopped having to sell, in the sense of sell myself or whatever. It was, I've already established myself. I've already got the team. I've already got the artists. So I got to get quiet again. So for a good 20 odd years, I pretty much went back into quiet mode. So coming into this space, it's been a little bit of a challenge, because now instead of presenting the artist, I am the artist. And I have the knowledge, but at the same time, there's that uncomfortability of selling yourself, because I don't really like talking about myself all that much. And because I use my art as a personal escape, I find it at times a little bit, if you can see, I'm a little bit flushed at the moment.
It's okay, doing a great job.
Thank you. So yeah, I think the biggest challenge is getting up speaking, getting into Twitter Spaces. I guess even when it was a big decision to dox myself, um, but because of the opportunities that were presented to me at the time, it was either jump with it and take it with both hands, or miss the boat, and I wouldn't be where I am right now for sure.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. You and I go back a little bit now, you know, given that we kind of met through Stacks Australia, and you first dropped some work with Gamma on our Stacks offering, and now you're part of our Gamma partner program, dropping work on Bitcoin as well. Talk to us about that, and talk to us about. Well, exactly. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that and what it's like to, you know, drop work on different platforms, but obviously both, you know, one on L1 Bitcoin and then a layer for Bitcoin, but just how that has kind of, you know, opened doors for you, and how, like you said, it almost sounds like advice for other creators about having to push yourself to do that, to kind of open, you know, have these new opportunities. And I'm going to pull up a couple of your pieces as we're talking.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, I guess, like I said, I was just getting into the space. I'm most probably less than about 3 months into the space, getting into at least listening to Twitter Spaces, trying to work out where my community was and so forth. And I had been listening to a guy, a Melbourne-based guy called Josh. It's Josh called Josh Crypto. Or another. Sorry, Josh, I stuffed that one up.
It's all good.
But he taught me a lot when it came to just how to understand the basic fundamentals of blockchain, how to trade, how to put NFTs up, what was involved, and so forth. So he suggested to me one day, or sent me a tweet where it's a whole bunch of ladies, all talking to each other online, never met each other. They all said, all right, we want to do this tour. There's a big function over in Melbourne called NFT Fest. We want to go. How about we do a tour? So off the back of that, I agreed. And it was a personal challenge, because I just had, split from my relationship at the time. Never traveled anywhere. I'd always been someone else's, in the sense. So when it came to doing this trip solo, not only was I starting a new career path, I was starting, to be an independent woman. I was doing trips with people that I didn't know. So it was a big deal. And I was scared as hell, to say the least. So went on there, ended up being the best thing I possibly could do. So my best advice to anybody would be, if an opportunity presents itself, even if it scares the pants off you, take it, especially in this space, because you never know where it can take you. And in my case, that tour, not only where I met yourself, I met a whole bunch of people. Stacks Australia sponsored the tour. Gamma sponsored the tour, so that made it a lot more financially viable for us to do it. And stay out a lot longer. I got to meet some of the most amazing people in Web3. I ended up creating this piece that you can see on screen, which was my first. That's not is that the first one that I did? I can't even remember now. I've done a few.
I think there's one other one in the series. I'll find it whilst you're chatting. But tell us about this style. And it seems like you definitely like to draw. Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth. It seems to me, from what I've seen you put on, on chain and also on Stacks, you like to draw people, and I think that you're very talented at it. Yeah. Well, tell us about the emotion and the expression that you put into your art. And also, I'd love for you to comment on, do you think about how the collector or the viewer is going to feel whilst you're creating? What goes into it?
Yeah. So when, like, for example, with this piece, this one was me. It's part of my journey. So when I'd done so much corporate work that I kind of didn't really know what my style was. And sometimes you literally just have to pick up a pen and paper and start doing something with no thought, you could have lots of emotions going through your mind at the time, which reflects in what you produce. The female form has always been, women are beautiful at the end of the day. No matter what shape and size they are, they're always gorgeous. So therefore, so this one was the first time I ever used an iPad. So I'd just been handed an iPad. I was like, okay, you know what? And I was literally in the car at the hotels when we were drawing this. And I just started scribbling it out. I had no idea what I was going to be doing. And then one of the girls was like, oh, wow, we're going to use that. Let's do a collection. We're going to use that one. And so it kind of started that conversation. Do you know what? Sometimes it's really structured. Because you're going through something. Some of my other pieces, they were really structured. There was a picture in my head that I really had a set idea to produce. And then other times, literally, I have no idea what's going to come out. And that was the first one that I had done a digital artwork on the iPad. So
it really sounds like you throw yourself out there and you've got a real sort of passion and drive to learn, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. I think that's super admirable. I'd love for you to talk more about it.
I think most of unfortunately, I wanted to go to uni. I wanted to do the arts degree. I wanted all of that. But life did not allow for that in my circumstance. I had a hell of a lot of challenges growing up, so it wasn't an option for me. So opportunities, it was fight or flight. They'd be put in front of you, and if you didn't fight for them and have that self-belief, even when everybody was saying no, 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 you wouldn't do it. I would have never got an ARIA nomination. I would have never got a Deadly nomination. I would have never met the people and the personalities that I did in my time had I not had this one argument with my husband at the time that said I was not good enough. Got out of the car, stomped into my office and drew the first picture. And I said, I told you I had it here. And it's like, oh, wow, you're right. Okay. That started a conversation. From that point, I've realized, you know what, if you want to know, you'll make it happen. If it's something that you love, then you will do the practice. You will spend the time. You will do the, 48-hour stay-ups to make sure that you hit that deadline. You will do the time. It's not a choice. You have no choice. If you try to go to bed, you'll be tossing and turning and you'll be back up because you have a hunger, you want it. And if you're doing this without that hunger, then go find something that you're doing better. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're not loving what you do, and I've done lots of jobs and I've left certain work because it stunted my creativity, not just as an artist, as a mum, as a person. And if you're not doing something you love, you're never going to do it well. You're never going to put the time that it requires. And the beauty of it, even if you have to do double time than your 8 hours at work, it won't feel like that because it's a pleasure the whole time. You have your little stresses and so forth, but you love doing it because you couldn't imagine, who would imagine that I'd be able to watch a movie, draw a picture and make some money at the same time?
It is amazing. And you can really tell that. Yeah, I love it. And you can really tell that you put that passion and that emotion and that drive into your work. I'm going to pull up another piece, and I know it's a personal one for you. So obviously feel free, what you're comfortable to, but just another beautiful piece of artwork, a slightly different, I guess, style for you. Do you want to tell us about this one?
Okay, so that was a piece. It was influenced by one of my longest standing friends. When I met her, she couldn't even draw a stick figure. She went through her own, trials and tribulations and ended up doing a master's degree. Whilst the kids were, close to her 50s, essentially. So she just one day decided. So after spending a lot of time with her and the artwork, that we came up with this kind of concept. So I'll be doing a collab thing with her later, in a later stage. But this piece was something that I've been thinking about for some time. And then recently my mum passed. So last month.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, thank you. And I was super close with my mum. I was caring for her, so she was very ill for quite some time. So, but I guess she was my advocate when everybody else was telling me that you can't make money from art, you can't create a career out of this. She would stand behind me when she was like, "Wow, that's fantastic," or "I love the color," and the response. She would give me that kind of feedback, whereas other people in my life would be like, "How much did you make for it? Can you survive on that? Can you pay the rent?" Criticism and all these criticisms. My mum never criticized. So this piece was in honor of her. She was a beautiful redhead. She was just like the center of our universe in so many ways, especially growing up. She was just, a natural beauty. She was never just at like full on. She was quite passive. If a bird fell out of a tree, she'd be the first to pick it up and nurse it to health. If someone needed something, if someone was hungry. I remember picking up a friend. He wasn't a friend at the time, just some homeless kid at the time. He had nowhere to go, and we brought him to the front door, and we're like, "Mum, he's got nowhere to go." And she pulled him aside, had a conversation, and next minute we're all on mattresses in our lounge room watching ET and whatever not. As long as she could see him, where his hands were going, being having daughters.
Of course.
Yeah. That was the type of person she was. So when I did this collect for the prints, that was the one that I wanted to do. So I literally drew that one the day after she passed, and I sat in her bed drawing that, and that's where it's kind of started.
Oh, that's a very brave share. Thank you so much for that. And it's just, the emotion and the narrative behind a piece of art is so important. It's clear how that came into this piece. And I guess, similarly but differently, you said that you always used art in a therapeutic way, or a way to just be, in your head. Is that it? That must be quite important too as well.
Well, yeah, and it creates, I guess, a lot of vulnerability as well. So I guess in some ways now I am starting to get a bit more comfortable with talking about it. I don't always articulate it in the way that I visualize it or I think it, because it's still a process of sharing.
Yeah.
Because it's such an internal process, and it's like me going to a psychologist and then saying, "Oh, here, let's listen to the tape or the recording." It's such a private thing, so some things I will be more open with, and other ones that and there's some things that I'll never show because they're my pieces and they're my.
No, totally. That's
a diary.
Absolutely. No, and that's part of the human condition. And again, thank you so much for sharing it. You've been, like you said, very vulnerable, very open, very communicative. It's almost like I don't believe you that you were this quiet kid through the years. But of course, I believe you. It's kind of really amazing. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And you are this bright spark we've met in person, and you can really get that vibe, through the camera as well.
Something changes to women after their 40s.
Yeah.
Something that clicks in us. So then we just go, no.
No, I love it. Well, I love that it's given you this new lease on life. And I guess that sort of brings us to wrapping it up. I'd love to know, what's next for you. You mentioned that there will hopefully, I hope there's more in this print series. But yeah, what's next, or what's in the short term, but what's in the next kind of period of Nietta's artistic journey?
So obviously there is, I've already got 2 prints ready to go on Gamma prints.
And the mempools calm down, so that's great.
Yeah, so I was just waiting for that. Yeah. I'm studying at the moment as well how to build business on Bitcoin and the Stacks ecosystem, because it's something that I want to know about. I'm quite interested in finding out more, considering as well that I've had such support from the Stacks and Gamma community. What else is there? We've got a new collection. I'm working with a number of other artists through the Bitcoin Collective. It's called Only Gallery, and it's going to release on the 16th of October. It's a number of or a small number of other artists, some well known, some quite new to the space. So 2 of my pieces will be released on that. Again, a different style to what you've seen. I like to keep my styles different on different chains, essentially. So what else is happening? And I'm working on an IRL event, which you'll hear about shortly, or you kind of already know. But
I know a little bit. That's okay. We can keep that hush hush. It's nice to have a little bit of mystery coming.
I know, right? And we're collabing with UTS Sydney, so the uni over there. So it should be a pretty good event and a fun event. Not your stock standard line up a few chairs and just talk tech. It should be a little bit more fun. So yeah, I've got a few little things in the works at the moment.
Well, that's really exciting.
And I'm building IRL businesses as well at the moment. So I'm collabing with IRL artists and creating some opportunities for people that will never get their head around the tech, essentially. So I'm trying to work out a way to get them opportunities, teach them a little bit so that they know what's going on, but also, dipping their feet in the Web3 space and NFTs. So, yeah.
I love it. You seem to have, that's not just a little bit, that's some really exciting stuff coming. And like I said, it's been a pleasure to have you on, I love chatting with you, whether it's IRL or, chatting to you in this way. And, we can't wait to see what else you drop on Gamma. And also we just hope it does everything that you drop, with Omi Gallery, with shout out Good Kitty, in other ecosystems as well. Because when artists win, that's what's most important to us. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for always making it easy to have a conversation. It feels like having a conversation with a friend. So it makes it a hell of a lot easier. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
See you later. Bye.